I'm going to treat this review a little bit differently, because when I came out of I Should Be So Lucky, I was so negative on the entire thing. I really struggled with this show, and I'm going to talk about all the reasons why. But while I talk about that, I'm also going to try and explain why that might not mean that you won't like it. This is going to be a weird one, but I'm going to try and do that if that makes sense. So why didn't I love I Should Be So Lucky? Let's find out. But if you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie, I talk about theatre. I am the most chaotic theatre person on the internet. I do reviews, I do discussions, I do video essays, and if any of that's interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps out the channel. But let's talk about I Should Be So Lucky. I feel like when I'm talking about a show, I really want to put my bias in front of me. I want to make it clear where I'm coming from and what may affect my decision going into a show. Because if I don't love a rom-com, for example, let's use that. If I don't love a rom-com and I go see a rom-com musical, I'm probably not going to like that rom-com musical. But if I'm upfront about that and I say the reason I don't like this is because I don't really like rom-coms, then people who watch this and engage with my content can look at that and go, okay, she doesn't like rom-coms, I like rom-coms, I might still like this show despite the fact that she didn't like it. I feel like whenever you're talking about media or whenever you're talking about things, you are always going to have biases. No matter who you are shaped by so many different things that any review, no matter how much you try, is going to be a little bit biased. Because it's opinion. Opinion is never matter of fact. So when I say I don't like I Should Be So Lucky, I feel like my bias with this show was that I was looking at it, and when I was watching it, I was very hung up on the story. And I feel like my attachment to some of this music and to this genre of pop music made it harder for me to actually really engage with this show. So if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what I Should Be So Lucky is, I Should Be So Lucky is a jukebox musical surrounding the music of Stock, Allen, and Waterman. There is absolutely no way that you haven't heard a song that has been written by Stock, Allen, and Waterman. They have written a lot with Kylie Minogue. They were behind Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. So if you've ever been rickrolled, it's these guys you have to thank. This musical has a very simple plot. Ella is about to get married, but on her wedding day, she is left at the altar. To try and console her, Ella's friends decide to join her on her honeymoon. But once her fiancé realizes the mistake that he's made, he follows her to the honeymoon to try and win her back. It is a chaotic story that feels very suited to this style of musical. It's very rom-com-y. Honestly, parts of this plot resemble very basic beats from shows like Anne Juliet as well, with the having to pick between two different men and many a complicated love story. On the surface, I felt like I was actually going to really enjoy this show, but I feel like I probably felt like I was going to enjoy this story more than I actually did. Because going into this show, that was actually the part of it that interested me. I think the basic conceit of this show is pretty strong and sounds like it could be a lot of fun. But for many a reason, I didn't really connect with it. So let's break down this plot. I'm going to say this first with the caveat that in a jukebox musical, obviously, the plot is not the most important thing. The most important thing is always going to be this music and that side of things, because that is why people are going to a jukebox musical. There are many things in this world that you don't go to for the plot, and this is one of them. I think on the whole, the book is very messy. There's loads of characters here. There's probably about 5 too many characters here. So its focus is all over the place, trying to make sure that all of these characters get some moment to shine, get a lover for their own, so they can all have this big wedding at the end where every single person gets married, you know? But with the overabundance of characters here, I didn't really connect to many of them. It's juggling a little bit too much, especially in Act 2, where we're throwing it between character to character, A plot to B plot to C plot to, like, J plot. So I kind of got drowned a little bit in the execution of it. I think what this book does well is it does lean into the style of this show. It's campy, it's silly, it's rom-com-esque. But beyond that, there is absolutely no substance here. And I feel like how much you're going to enjoy this show is how much you can set that aside, which really, if you're going into a jukebox musical, you probably should. I didn't, and that's probably why I didn't like it that much. Also, since seeing it, I've quite softened to the integration of Kylie Minogue's cameos into this show. As this kind of spirit and the person that Lucy May Sumner's character, Ella, sees in the mirror when she's looking at herself, and like, she almost acts like it is very like fairy godmother-esque. But my god, if I was any of the other musicians on this show, I would be so pissed that they focus all of this musical on Kylie when, you know, there are other artists that this show is taking the music from. The more you lean into the silliness of the Kylie cameos with the very, very forced in references to her music career, the more you'll have fun with it. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I found myself quite bored with this plot. Whether it was my hang-ups alone or the overall pace of this show not flowing as well as it could, I did find myself struggling. But as I said, the plot in a jukebox musical is always the least important thing. So what about the music of this show? Music is your make and break in a jukebox musical. And unfortunately here, I was disappointed as well. I think maybe I was hoping for a more musical theatre style to these songs, like other jukebox musicals done before it, like & Juliet, like Mamma Mia, these remixes and these different versions of these songs that allow it to flow a lot better and to sound more big and bold in a jukebox musical. Because yes, the word jukebox is there, and that's very important, but musical theatre is also very important to what makes these shows. I think one of the best examples of this is something like Moulin Rouge, where they take so many of these songs and they're iconic and you recognize them immediately, but they have their own style. They fit this musical, and they feel very unique to this version. Whereas this felt like they just kind of took a lot of these songs and placed them in. They're not bad. They're not bad necessarily, because obviously these songs are iconic and these songs are great. And, you know, thinking about your audience and appeasing your audience, people are going to go in, listen to these songs that they love, and they're the ones that they always have loved for all of their lives, and that's great. People are going to love that. But I feel like it's a shame and a very big missed opportunity, especially for this cast, because a lot of these songs don't have the big music theatre moments that really allow a cast to show off their vocals. I feel like so few of these cast members really get that one song that suits them and allows them to have their diva moment. So when I'm sitting there, a little bit disappointed with the way that they've approached the music, and the plot isn't really doing it for me either, there wasn't too much for me to actually attach to with this show. And this is where we have to talk about how much this show is actually designed for me. No matter how much I do enjoy this music, I'm a musical theatre girly through and through. I'm not really that into pop music as a genre. I don't really listen to too much beyond the sphere of musical theatre. So the fact that I'm more disappointed in this is more a reflection of me than the actual show as well. I would have loved to see these, and I do think it is a missed opportunity to really, really define this and give it a unique sound of its own. But I think that might be one of the reasons that this show has had such a different reaction from the theatre people that I know to more of a general theatre going audience, who this show is more for. What I do quite like is I like some of the design of this show as well. I think the basic set idea is great. I love these giant love hearts that kind of surround the stage and like the frames, I'm going to call them, that run backwards. I love the seashell design. It immediately makes you think of the beach and like a honeymoon and that holiday side of things. Even if there are quite a few moments, especially towards the start of the show, where this stage is bare. This is fixed later in the show as they bring on more things and they use curtains to hide different parts of the set. So it feels like the stage does get more filled, but especially in the opening number, that stage looks very bare. But while the stage looks better a lot of the time, what I am really positive on is this choreography. The finale megamix, despite myself being a little bit like defeated at the end of the show because I wasn't really clicking with it as much as I wanted to, the finale megamix was so fun and so well choreographed that it did help me leave a little bit more positive than I was feeling throughout a lot of this show. And let's talk about this cast. As I said, I really wish that the music was a little bit stronger to be able to give them more moments to shine, but I think they all do understand the assignment of this show. They lean into the campy stereotypes of the characters you find in a rom-com. Lucy May Sumner is a treat in this show. I really enjoy her performance. I think she's a very lovable protagonist. I think her vocals are stunning. When she gets her Kylie moment, gorgeous. And actually, someone who does get a really strong moment to show off their vocals is Kayla Carter as Bonnie. The bridesmaid, never the bride. And honestly, when she sings her song, when she belts the house down, it is a treat to listen to. I think a lot of the members of the group, the bridesmaid group, are a lot of fun. You have Scott Page, who is a joy in everything that he is in, who is the epitome of camp and is selling it to the back of that auditorium. Jamie Chapman's actually a lot of fun as the hotel manager who's kind of trying to juggle this chaos a little bit and really does come across as caring in his job and actually ends up joining into the group in the song Respectable, which actually was quite a nice moment. I'll give it that. There's a very weird subplot with Anna Irwin's character, Olivia, and Dominic Anderson as Revel, which is a way that the show is trying to add a little bit of extra conflict in. And I think as like the bitchy character that they're going for with Anna Irwin's character, she does a great job. Even if this subplot is just kind of, it just kind of ends. They just kind of have Dom Anderson's character explain what their subplot was about instead of actually giving it like a finite ending, which, I don't know, that seems like a missed opportunity. Especially seeing as she was the character who was literally giving you the main conflict in this show, but okay. And then there's Giovanni Spano and Bill Roberts as Ash and Nathan, respectively. This is the best man and the groom, also respectively. And honestly, there are some really funny moments where they're kind of like chasing after Ella, looking at what she's doing on her honeymoon, trying to work out what's going on and trying to find the right moment to win her back. That's, yeah, I enjoy their performances. They try and play a lot more as like the straight men than some of these other characters, so they do add a nice dynamic. I feel like if I was to go in to I Should Be So Lucky Again and just not think about the story, I would probably come out a little bit more positive on the whole show. Because I think the more you focus on how messy the story is, the less fun you're able to have. So because of that, I really felt down on this show. If you expect a light, fluffy show that it should not be taken seriously at all, with some nice music here and there, you should have a good time. But for me, someone who isn't massive into the jukebox musical genre, this one was more of a struggle for me. But what do you think? What did you think of I Should Be So Lucky? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me out, helps out the channel. Here's some links to my videos on screen right now, and a link to my Instagram, which drop me a follow over there. But that's it for me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!